everyone, welcome to Biotecnika. So we have started Nail the NEET Revision Series. So it's going to be for 15 days. So this is going to be the 6th day for us. So I'm going to teach you biology today. I've already done part 1, body fluids and circulations. Today it's going to be part 2 session for you. So before going in for this session, I want you, all of you, to confirm whether you can see me and hear me. If you can see me and hear me, please type me with a S in the live chat. Yes. Good evening, Roshni. Yes, good evening. I'm just going to wait for some 2 to 3 minutes and then we'll start the session. Okay, I think all of you can hear me and see me. So I'm going to tell you an overview of this 15 days Nail the NEET Revision Series. So we have been in the 6th day. So we have already completed some topics and we'll be coming up with the rest of the days. We'll be talking on chemistry and biology. I would suggest you to come every day 4 to 5 p.m. and it's going to be live. If you have any questions, you can put your questions in the chat box and we'll get back to you. If you want to know more about NEET, you can join our Telegram channel where you'll be getting our mind maps or freebies. Everything will be available. So join our channel so you can get connected to a channel which will be displayed, or it will be displayed in the description box. You can also call a toll-free number and you can also just mail to info@biotecnika.org. Yes. So I'm just going to wait for 2 to 3 minutes and then we'll start the session. Yes. Shall we start the session? Yes. Hello, Sneha. Hello. How are you? Good. Okay. Fine. So let's start the session, all of you. I want everybody to take your NCERT book, take your pens, everything ready. Let's start the session, mark all the important points. I've done with part 1. So in that we talked about the blood composition. So I'm just going to scroll on to the sides where we talked about body fluids and circulation. And then I'm directly taking you to this human heart and most important topics, which is requested from most of them. So we're going to deal with that. Okay. So we talked about blood, and at the last moment, I'll ask some questions and we'll discuss some of the questions from the previous one also. So we talked about RBC, WBC, platelets, and we talked about what are the composition, how many are present, what is the condition. We talked about what is blood grouping in the previous one. If you want to know more about it, you can check in for the previous video, part 1 of body fluids and circulations. So now let's move on to human circulatory system, heart. Yes. We had a basic outline of what is going to be the internal structure of human heart. So I'm going to talk about what are the important points in your NCERT book. Please underline, and that's going to be a question for your examination. Yes, so let's start human heart. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm really good, Sneha. Yes. Human heart. So first we're going to talk about what is human heart. Very important line, mesodermal. Where is this human heart originating from is an important question in your NEET examination. They might ask you, is it coming from ectoderm or endoderm and mesoderm? So your option has to be mesoderm. This is very important question. We already know about gastrula stage. When embryos form, this is the ectoderm. And this is going to be the mesoderm. And this is going to be the endoderm. This is endoderm. So the heart is actually originating from the middle portion. This is important. Next one, where is it located? Yes, so it's actually located between 2 lungs. We used to call it mediastinum, which is the cavity, which we can see, or we can call it thoracic cavity also. And it's present between 2 lungs. So suppose if we have to draw a lung. So this area is going to be this left lung, right? This is left lung and this is going to be cardiac notch. The same you'll be studying in your breathing and exchange of gases. So this is going to be cardiac notch. In this area, you will find the heart is present. The heart is actually present in this region. Okay. So in between the 2 lungs, and very important, it's slightly tilted towards the left because there's a cardiac notch present. Yes. What's the size of a clenched fist? Non-working hands, if you're going to talk about the size of the clenched fist is the size of the heart. And very important line, I'm going to talk about this line which is given in your NCERT book. If you have your NCERT book, please underline this important line, double walled membranous bag. They can ask you single walled or double walled. So I'm going to talk about what are the walls and outer layer, inner layer and middle layer. So let's talk about pericardium. We already know what is pericardium, but I'm going to take you in a bit detail and then we'll go on to the rest of the things. Yes, pericardium. And we already know about heart, which has two atria, two ventricles. Yes. So let's go in for the complete structure of human heart. Listen, I'm going to talk about the walls of heart, not the valves. This is walls of heart. Suppose if I have to talk about the heart. So what does the heart wall is actually made up of? Suppose let's draw a heart, a rough diagram of all these things. So we know this is going to be the right atrium, and this is going to be the left atrium, and this is going to be the right ventricles, and this is going to be the left ventricle. Listen, all of you carefully. I'm talking about the walls of the heart. In examination, they can give you a single membranous pericardium or double membered pericardium. This is important. I told you every word is important in your examination. So what does this wall, if I have to talk about this wall, is actually made up of? Let's talk about it. This is actually made up of 3 layers. So 3 layers make up this heart. What are those 3 layers? So the outermost one, whenever you hear our biology terminology, it always gives you an idea of the word itself, gives you an idea. So it's going to be epicardium. So there's going to be epicardium. And epi means something which is out or above, we can say. And the middle one, middle layer of the heart, is going to be myocardium. Listen carefully, it's not mesocardium. We can say it's going to be myocardium. Myo is always related to muscles. So something which makes up in the middle portion. Yes, the last one, innermost layer. The innermost layer is going to be endocardium. So I just want somebody to answer me. Is it visible for you guys? Just answer me if you can. Just reply me with a yes. Yes, good evening, Vinod. Good evening, Vignesh. Yes. Is it visible, all of you? Yes, no? Yeah. Yes, yes. Okay, fine. Yes, Sugana, Supriya, yes, Vignesh, yes. Okay. So now we know epicardium, and the middle one is going to be myocardium, and the final one is going to be endo, which is inside. Suppose if I have to talk about the walls of the heart, let's consider this is going to be the outermost layer, which is epicardium. And listen carefully, they have talked about a double-walled membrane pericardium. So this epicardium, if I have to talk about this one in detail, this epicardium is actually made up of 2 layers. One is going to be serous pericardium, and the next one is going to be fibrous pericardium. Fibrous. So that's why in our NCERT book, they have written double layers. So 2 pericardiums are present. Now let's see the slide. Yes. Okay. Double walled membranous bag pericardium, because they have serous pericardium also. They have this fibrous pericardium. Suppose if I have to talk about this one. Yes, you can see it over here. Okay, this is the outermost one, because heart is very fibrous in nature. If they are fiber in nature, then only they can protect themselves from any kind of shock. So we will write this is the fibrous pericardium. Fibrous pericardium. And the innermost one, or we can say the next one, is serous pericardium. This too makes the epicardium. So let's draw the inner one. This is going to be serous pericardium. Actually, serous pericardium is also made up of 2 layers. One is going to be visceral, and we can say the next one is going to be parietal. So this is going to be visceral, or we can say visceral, and this is going to be parietal. And these two make up what? Serous pericardium. Serous pericardium. Yes. So this two. Suppose if you're talking about this red layer and this red layer, so the innermost one is going to be parietal, or we can say visceral, and this is going to be peripheral ones. Yes. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay. This is, yeah, visceral. So in between these two, so this two makes what? Serous pericardium. This two makes a serous pericardium. In between this, you're going to have pericardial fluids. What's the role of pericardial fluid? Can anybody answer me what is the role of pericardial fluids, which is given in our NCERT book? Pericardial fluids. There's a fluid. So if I have to talk about pericardial fluids? Anybody, can you answer me? What's the role of a pericardial fluid? Pericardial fluid. The main role of a pericardial fluid is to act as a lubricant. It acts as a lubricant because the heart also do some pumping action, right? So it might also face some kind of shock. In order to protect themselves, this pericardial fluid is actually present in the serous pericardium, okay, which is made up of, we can say, parietal as well as visceral ones. And the innermost one, suppose if I have to talk about the innermost one, okay, this is the middle layer. And this blue color I'm marking, right? This is going to be the middle layer, which we call myocardium. And this myocardium is made up of what? Muscles. Myo means muscle. What muscles? It's going to be very simple. It's going to be cardiac muscles. So it's made up of cardiac muscles. So outer one is pericardium, which is normal fibrous one. And the inner ones is going to be cardiac muscle. And the innermost one, which is going to be endocardium. So let's write endocardium. This is the innermost one, which is endocardium. And this is made up of simple squamous epithelium. Simple. Suppose if I have to talk about what is simple. Simple means one layer. Squamous means flat. So they are made up of only one layer of flat cells. That is endocardium. So let's revise it back again. What are the walls of heart? You have to remember it's a double-membered pericardium. The outermost one is called as pericardium, and or we can say epicardium. Epicardiums are of two types, which we can say serous pericardium, and the next one is going to be fibrous. Fibrous is the outermost one. And they're going to have pericardial fluid and they act as a lubricant. And the innermost one is, middle one is called as the myocardium. Myo means muscle, cardiac muscle. And the most innermost one we can say is going to be what? The endocardium. It is made up of simple squamous epithelium. Single layer of flat cells make up this one. Yes, now we understood how the heart is actually protected. The heart has a lot of protection, then only it can work its action, right? Yes. Okay, now we are done with the walls of heart. Now we are moving on to the structure of heart. Very important. You have to go in for every line in your NCERT. Okay, so let's draw the complete structure of heart and we will understand what are these things. Okay, yes. Okay, so this is going to be the right atrium. We already know what is it going to be. It's going to be right atrium. And this is going to be the left atrium. Yes. And this part is going to be the right ventricles, and this is going to be the left ventricles. We have already done, but I have to do it again for those who are not there. And very important things I'm going to say over here. So this portion is a separation. Separation means septum. So this is a separation between right atrium and left atrium. So we call it interauricular septum. And there's a very, very important line in our NCERT book. You have to remember, is it thick or thin? This is the most important thing. People used to miss it. Please understand this line. It's going to be thin. Thin, muscular in nature. It is made up of thin muscles, not thick muscles. Between right atrium and left atrium, there are thin muscles. Okay. What about in case of ventricles, if we have to talk about this ventricles? Suppose if I have to talk about this one, just a minute. Yeah, this one. This is going to be between ventricles. So it's going to be interventricular septum, separations. Interventricular septum. And this has to be thicker. And always remember, when you're comparing an auricle and a ventricle, ventricular walls, I told you they're made up of three walls only, epicardium, myocardium, and endocardium. But the ventricular walls are more thicker than the auricular walls. So we'll write ventricular walls are thick. They're very thick. And if I have to be very specific, whether it is right ventricle or left ventricle, yes, left ventricles are very thicker. Why? Because this left ventricle is the one which is going to give blood, oxygenated blood to the entire part of the body. So their wall has to be very thick. So remember, is it auricular walls thicker or ventricular walls thicker? You have to remember it's always ventricular walls are thicker. But out of right ventricle and left ventricle, whose walls are thicker? Left ventricle walls are very thicker. Yes. So interventricular septum, which is between two ventricles, it is made up of thick muscles. This is made up of thick muscles. Please make sure the interventricular is made up of thin muscles, and ventricles are kind of, the walls are thicker, so they have thick muscles. And if I have to talk about auricles and ventricle separation, there is a connective tissue which is actually present over there. This is going to be auricles above, ventricles are below. So we used to call it auricular ventricular septum. Ventricular septum. And this is also very thick, very thick. And remember, it is not made up of muscles. This is thick, fibrous tissues. That's why I told you fibrous connective tissues. Thick fibrous in nature. So remember, interauricular septum is going to be thin and they're made up of muscle. Interventricular septums are going to be thick and they're made up of muscles. Auricular ventricular septums are going to be thick, but they are made up of fibers. Yes. Now we got all the point. All of you are getting it? Yes? Okay. Okay, Yokesh. So listen, so now we are going to understand how do the heart is going to carry the blood. Let's suppose take right atrium. Okay, how can I remember what blood will come to the right atrium? Just remember, I told you previously, just remember doctor. All of you want to become a doctor, so just remember doctor. So deoxygenated blood will come to the right atrium. Okay, so deoxygenated blood will come to the right atrium. So I'm just writing it as DO. Okay, and oxygenated blood will come to the left atrium. Oxygenated blood will come to the left atrium. Okay, but who is going to bring the bloods? Let's talk about it. Okay. Okay, let's talk about all these things in detail for now. First, we have to understand important terminologies. Okay. Can anybody tell me systemic veins carries oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood? A quick answer from all of you. A systemic veins carries oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood. Systemic veins. Veins which are going to the heart. Anybody? Yes. Systemic veins are going to carry oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood. Very good, Yukesh. It's going to be deoxygenated blood. And systemic artery is going to carry oxygenated blood. And very, very important point, pulmonary artery difference, because I'm going to talk in detail. So please remember, pulmonary means which is referring to what? Lungs. So in lungs also they have arteries which will be carrying connected to the heart. So pulmonary arteries, just the opposite you have to write. Pulmonary arteries are going to carry what kind of blood? Just the opposite, deoxygenated blood. And pulmonary veins are going to carry oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood. Okay. So this is very important. Definite question for your NEET examination. Please do not make mistake in any of these things. Okay, fine. Now what we are going to do, we are going to talk about who is going to carry. Systemic vein is going to carry deoxygenated blood. But what are those systemic veins? Let's talk in detail. Okay. Okay, let me write all those things first. Suppose if I'm talking about the entire heart, you can also join along with me and you can write. So this is right atrium. And this is going to be left atrium, same. Right ventricle and left ventricle. So I already told you right atrium is going to receive deoxygenated blood. But who is going to carry it? Remember who is going to carry? Yes. It's going to be veins. So what are those veins? I'm writing specifically systemic veins. What are the systemic veins which carries deoxygenated blood? The first important thing is going to be superior vena cava. Superior vena cava. And any other veins? Anybody can you guess and tell me? Inferior vena cava. And then superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. And then there's going to be coronary sinus. Coronary sinuses. Coronary sinuses are also present. Okay. Superior vena cava carries deoxygenated blood from the topmost portion of your body. Inferior vena cava carries deoxygenated blood from the bottommost portion of your body because it has to be oxygenated again. And what about this coronary sinus? So this is superior vena cava. I'm writing superior vena cava as SVC. And below there's going to be inferior vena cava, which is going to be inferior vena cava, which carries deoxygenated blood to the heart. So we'll make it blue color. Okay, this is deoxygenated blood. Okay, this is deoxygenated blood is actually coming over, or we'll make it red color or any other thing. We'll make it green color. Okay, deoxygenated blood is coming over. Coronary sinus, I told you there is another vein because the heart is also having some kind of tissues. Those tissues will use the oxygen and they will release out deoxygenated blood. And they also has to be coming to the heart only. That is going to be coronary sinuses. So coronary sinuses carries deoxygenated blood from the walls of the heart. Now all the blood has come inside the right atrium. Yes. And here I told you there is going to be septum. This septum means separation. And the separation is going to have some opening. And that opening is going to have walls. And what is that wall? That is called as what? Right auricular ventricular wall. Can anybody tell me what's the other name of right AV wall? Anybody? What's the other name of right AV wall? Anybody, can you guess? Very important. I told you previous itself. Just remember lab rat. Okay, yes. So you have to remember right ventricles. Right ventricles are going to have what? Tricuspid wall. Right ventricles are going to have tricuspid wall. So this is going to be yes, tricuspid. This is not going to be bicuspid. Yes, Mati. This is going to be, this is not bicuspid. This is tricuspid. Okay, remember this. Tricuspid. And this is going to be the left AV wall. Just remember left LB. Okay, lab rat. Just remember this one. So left AV wall. Suppose if I have to talk about this left AV wall, it is called as bicuspid wall. Please remember the only wall which is going to be bicuspid is left. Okay, this is bicuspid wall. Or we can call it mitral wall. This is very important. In examination, they can ask you bicuspid wall or mitral wall. They can give any of the option, but you have to choose this. Right AV is tricuspid, which means they are made up of three cusp-like structure, which is like a flap kind of thing, which used to go up and down, like flexible. Okay, yes. Okay, this is done. So now the deoxygenated blood will come to the right ventricles. And somebody has to carry this deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Can anybody tell me who is going to carry this deoxygenated blood to the lungs? Pulmonary arteries or pulmonary veins? Just the opposite of this. Pulmonary arteries or pulmonary veins? Who's going to carry it? Anybody? Pulmonary arteries or pulmonary veins? Anybody? Come on. Okay. It's going to be pulmonary arteries. So this is going to be what? Pulmonary arteries. Please don't forget this one. Pulmonary arteries are going to carry oxygenated or deoxygenated blood. So this is going to be pulmonary arteries. So how many pulmonary arteries are there? Anybody? How many pulmonary arteries? Is it one or two? So we have two lungs. So one pulmonary arteries goes to the right lobe and another one goes to the left lobe. So we have two of it. Okay, yes. And below this, there is a wall which protects. This wall is called as what? Semilunar walls. Very important. This is called semilunar walls. Okay. Semilunar walls are made up of bicuspid, two cusp or three cusp? Three cusp. So it is tricuspid. Tricuspid wall. Okay. It will go and give it to the lungs. And now lungs has a correlation, breathing and exchange of gases where oxygen will be exchanged and they will convert everything into what? Oxygenated blood. But somebody has to carry this oxygenated blood to the left atrium who will bring pulmonary veins. Now the question is, how many pulmonary veins do you have from the lungs to the heart? Anybody? Pulmonary veins, how many? Pulmonary veins? From one lung you will have two pulmonary veins. From the other lobe you will have two. So pulmonary veins are going to be 2 and pulmonary 4, we can say. Pulmonary veins are going to be 4 and pulmonary arteries are going to be 2. So pulmonary arteries are going to be 2 in each. Okay, yes. So now they will bring all the oxygenated blood and then they will bring everything to this left ventricles. Left ventricles are going to be very stronger. The walls are going to be very stronger. And somebody has to take this oxygenated blood to the entire part of the body. Who's going to carry it? Anybody? Aorta. Aorta is going to carry all this oxygenated blood to the entire part of the body. Yes. So I hope everybody understood. All of you clear? If you can understand, please reply me with S. All of you? Yes. Or any doubts so far? Yukesh, very good. Roshni, yes. Okay, listen. Okay, so now the question is, what's the role of a valve? The main role of any valves are going to be preventing the backflow of the blood. Prevents backflow. Okay. It prevents backflow. So let's talk. So what are the superior vena cava? Do they have walls? Superior vena cava. Do they have walls? They don't have walls. No walls. It is a systemic veins. No valves. Because they are directed in that angle, so there is no need of any walls. Inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava, do they have wall? Definitely they have a wall. What is that wall? Anybody? Wall of Eustachian. Wall of Eustachian. Okay. What about coronary sinus? Do they have? Yes. Coronary sinus also have wall. What is that wall called as? Wall of Tibetius. Wall of Tibetius. Do pulmonary arteries have walls? Yes. Pulmonary artery has wall. What is that wall? Semilunar walls. Very important. Semilunar walls. Remember, semilunar walls are also going to be tricuspid. The only bicuspid wall is going to be what? Left AV wall. Apart from that, in heart, you will see all are going to be tricuspid. This is also tricuspid. Do aorta has any kind of walls? Yes, aorta also has. That is also going to be what? Semilunar walls. And this is also made up of three cusp. So it is also tricuspid. Okay. Okay. Do a pulmonary vein has any wall? Anybody answer me? Do pulmonary veins have any walls? Pulmonary veins? No. Pulmonary veins, we said there are going to be 4, and pulmonary arteries are going to be 2 in numbers. They have no valves. So you should remember which one of these things do not have walls. Superior vena cava. Why? If I have to draw a heart. Yes. So superior vena cava comes like this in this angle. And even pulmonary veins used to come in this angle. So there is no need of any walls, because as soon as they put their blood over there, they'll automatically, as they contract, they'll close immediately. So there is no need of any walls in case of superior vena cava and pulmonary vein. But the rest of the things you have to remember. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now we are done with the most of the important things, everything. Walls of the atrium is thinner, walls of ventricles are thicker, and even in that, left ventricles are very, very thicker, because they are going to pump out all the blood to the entire part of the heart. Okay. Another important thing, examination you can have, fossa ovalis, very important. What is fossa ovalis? Yes. Suppose if I have to draw the same portion of a heart, yes, this is going to be the separation. When you are in the embryonal stage, what usually happens is, so there is going to be a separation where mixing of blood actually takes place, or the blood from the right atrium and left atrium will go. And what exactly happened after birth? So there would be a closing of this one. This scar is called as fossa ovalis. And previously there would be a hole, and that hole is called as foramen ovale. Foramen ovale. So when you are in an embryonal stage, there would be an opening. That hole is called as foramen ovale. And when we are born, after birth, it will close and it will create a scar. And that scar is called fossa ovalis. And because of this opening only, we are thinking this heart has a hole, we are telling it, right? Yes, this is another important thing you have to remember. Okay, so we are done with the entire heart, and I'm going to read all the NCRT lines. Please underline, make sure you're underlining everything. Okay, so we already know mesodermal in origin, important point. A thin muscular wall. This I told you, very important. In examination, they can ask you thinner or thicker or lower or higher, anything. So interatrial septum, which means they are present between two atrias. This portion, this is right atrium, left atrium. They are thin muscle. They are made up of normal muscles which separate right and left atria. Understood? Yes. The next one, thick walled. Important. Thick walled. This is present below. This is going to be what? Thick. This is very, very thick. Ventricles usually have thick walls, and even the septa is going to be very thick. This is important. The next one. This is made up of muscles again. This is also made up of muscles. So interatrial septum and the interventricular septums are made up of muscles only. Suppose if I have to talk about atrioventricular septum, this part. What about this one? They are fibrous in nature, and they are also thick. I told you, right? They are going to be separated by thick. If you have NCRT in your book, please underline this point. A thick fibrous tissue is actually present over there. Fibrous, which means they are made up of collagen and elastin. Collagen and elastins are present, which are tough materials actually. And that's why we'll be talking about AV node. AV node is mainly responsible. Each of these septas are provided with openings. And I told you valves. We already talked about this one in detail. Okay. Yes. This is another important line which you have to read clearly, NCRT lines. The opening between the right and the right ventricle is guarded by a wall. Okay. Right atrium, right ventricle is guarded by a valve. Okay. and formed of three muscular cusps. Okay, underline this muscles. So cusp is actually made up of muscle here. We are talking about three cusps. So I told you right AV wall, and this right AV wall is made up of three cusps. So it is called as what? Tricuspid. But you should remember the cusp are made up of what material? It's going to be muscles, normal cardiac muscles. They're made up of what? Normal cardiac muscles. You have to remember. Okay. Yes. The next one. Function. Aorta's role is to carry oxygenated blood from the left ventricle, and it will circulate to the entire part of the body. It is the major artery which actually transfers all the blood to the entire part of the body. So that's why the left ventricle is very thick. Understood? Yes. Okay. So the next line, you have to remember the opening of right ventricle. This is right ventricle, and this is going to be, sorry, left atrium and left ventricles. And this is actually made up of, see over here, it is actually made up of what? Left AV wall. I told you it is made up of bicuspid. So these lines in your NCRT are really important. This is an important NCRT image which you definitely have to read over. You will get the same question in your examination. See, vena cava is given. So you have to remember this is going to be inferior vena cava, superior vena cava. Of course, it's going to be superior vena cava. And the next one, right atrium. Right atrium is given. This is right atrium. And AV node is given. Let's talk about these nodes later. SA node, AV node, and very important, chordae tendineae. This is very important. Where is this chordae tendineae is present will be coming in your examination. Just remember what's the role of it. I'm going to tell you. So it's going to have a structure like this. And here we know there's going to be a wall which is actually present here. And here also there's going to be wall which is present over here. Okay, yes. So here we can have some tall ridges and small ridges. And this tall ridges, right? Suppose if I have to talk about this tall ridges, this is called as papillary muscles. The tall ridges are called as papillary muscles. And from this tall ridges, there is going to be a connection to this right AV wall. From here, there's a connection like this. Like this. So there's going to be connection like this in both the ventricles. Why? Because what happens is this right AV wall, right? This right AV wall and the left AV wall are made up of muscular flaps. So what happens as the ventricles are contracting, the pressure increases. If the pressure increases, all the blood from the ventricles will go up. So this flap will move above. So this chordae tendineae actually pulls it down. So chordae tendineae role is to pull the ventricles, pull the right AV and the left AV septum, or we can say the walls, very rapidly in order to prevent the backflow. That is chordae tendineae. Yes. We talked about tricuspid walls. Yes, easy. And bicuspid wall, we know, and very important, why they have given apex here. In the previous video, I was talking about fish has two-chambered heart. Ventricles are above, auricles are below. But as the evolution has taken place, the ventricle has gone down. That's why we are mentioning the heart is, apex is at the bottom. But in case of fishes, we used to say apex is going to be ventricle. So remember, wherever there is ventricle, that is going to be the apex portion. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, let's go in for some questions. I want answer from all of you. Let's do it. Heart is covered by peritoneum, pleural membrane, pericardium, visceral membrane. Can you just answer, somebody? Heart is covered by double wall to single wall, to be very specific. Anybody can answer. Peritoneum or pleural membrane or pericardium or visceral membrane? Yes, it's going to be pericardium, double-walled pericardium. Okay, I told you serous as well as fibrous one. Very good, very good. Yes, very good, Mati. Yes, chordae tendineae. Just now I told you, where is this chordae tendineae? Where is this chordae tendineae? Is it present in the joints of the legs or atria or in the ventricles of the brain or ventricles of the heart? Anybody answer this question? Where is it present? Chordae tendineae. Just now I told you, important question. It prevents the backflow of the blood from the ventricles into atria by pulling them down, all the walls. Yes, very good. It's present in the ventricles. Is it present in right ventricles or left ventricle or both the cases? Both the cases. It is present in both the cases. Okay. The next one, very important. I told you everything I'm dealing with NEET questions, so listen carefully. The atrial walls are thicker or thinner? The first question, is it thicker or thinner? Just look into the option. Than the ventricles, and the generated in the atrial chamber is higher or lower? Easy question. You already know atria is going to be, yes, thinner. Very good, Mati. It's going to be thinner and it is going to be low pressure, because if you have more thinner surfaces, you will definitely have a less amount of pressure. If it's very thicker, then it's going to be more pressure. So answer is very simple. It's going to be option B. Okay. In the human heart, which of the following wall remains in contact with the oxygenated blood? Remains. This is important. Remains in contact with the oxygenated blood. Just understand and tell me, all of you. Answer for this question, anybody? So we know right atrium, deoxygenated. Here also deoxygenated. In left atrium, this is oxygenated. Left atrium, left ventricle, oxygenate. But the question is, in which of the following it remains in contact? Where will the oxygenated blood finally goes? Is it in the left atrium or left ventricle? Of course, it is in what? Left ventricle. Now the question is, which of the following walls, which wall is in contact with this one? What is this wall? What is this wall called as? Can I say left AV wall? And I told you left AV wall is the only wall which is made up of two cusps, or we can say bicuspid. Bicuspid wall is otherwise called as, what is it? Mitral wall. It's not tricuspid, guys. It is bicuspid. Mitral wall. I told you, please remember lab rat. Lab rat. So right is going to have tricuspid. This is tricuspid. And left is going to have bicuspid. So what's the answer? Very simple. Yes, Ashwin, this is mitral wall. So answer is very simple. Remember, this is mitral wall or bicuspid. The rest of the things, everything is going to be tricuspid walls. Yes. What's the function of the heart wall? Anybody? Very simple. I told you the main role of the valve is to prevent the blood flow back again into the atria, or prevent the backflow of the blood. And the valves are mainly responsible for unidirectional movement of blood. Movement of blood. So what is the answer for this question? Anybody? Just let me know the answer. Anybody? Just answer this question. Yes, very good. It keeps moving forward through the heart. So if there is no heart walls, the blood will not flow from right atrium to right ventricle, or from left atrium to left ventricle. It will not go. So it is always leading to the unidirectional movement. So the answer is A. Okay. Next question, easy. So in veins, okay, I already talked about in the previous classes, arteries are going to have narrow lumen, veins are going to have wider lumen. And very important, I talked about the thickness of all these things in detail. In case of arteries, the outermost layer is very thick. The two layers which we talked about, media and interna, everything are going to be kind of thinner, I told you. So the question is, in valves, in veins, valves present to check backward flow of blood, veins. The question is not arteries. Just remember, I told you aorta is going to carry maximum blood. If maximum blood, more pressure is there. But veins usually carry a limited amount of blood in comparison with the arteries. So they used to carry blood. Is it at a high pressure or low pressure or atmospheric pressure or all of these things? No. Arteries only usually carries high pressure. Please remember this. Arteries used to carry blood, oxygenated blood, if I have to talk about systemic arteries. Oxygenated blood, and usually in our body, oxygenated blood are maximum. So they are going to be what? High pressure. But I'm talking about veins. So veins usually carries blood with low pressure, which means the amount of blood is going to be less. So answer is option C. Everybody understood? Just reply me with yes if you understand. Everybody understood? All of you? Yes, good, Ashit. Yes, okay, fine. Just after, listen, very simple. Just after the blood leaves the left ventricle of the human heart, it passes through where it has to go. Very simple question. Answer this question, all of you. Try this question. So where is the blood? The blood leaves the left ventricle. Left ventricle, what is the blood present? Oxygenated blood. So the blood leaves the left ventricle of the human heart. It passes through where it has to go. Answer me, pulmonary arteries or left atrium, or it's going to be aorta or superior vena cava. Where it has to go? Very simple, aorta. Yes, from here it actually goes to the aorta. Yes, simple question. So answer is going to be option C. Yes. Okay, so we know about the internal structure of heart. We know about the walls of the heart. Now we are moving on to circulation of heart. Very important topic. Let's do it very quickly. Come on. So let's talk about it, systemic circulation and all these things in detail. Yes. Okay, very important. There are two circulation. I told you in the last class itself, there are going to be circulation. Why it is called double circulation? There are two type of circulation which is going to take place. One is called as systemic circulation. Another one is called as pulmonary circulation. Systemic circulation and pulmonary circulations. Systemic circulation is going to carry a lot of blood, which means the heart is actually going to pump a lot of blood to the entire part of the body, which means the aorta is going to do that. Pulmonary means you should remember it is on the lungs. Okay, suppose if I have to talk about this in detail, remember very easy. This is the most important line you have to remember. To and from the tissue. To and from the tissues. And pulmonary circulation means to and from the lungs. To and from the lungs. Okay, yes, just remember this one. So let's draw this one, make it a star point, all of you. Systemic means to and from the tissues. Pulmonary means to and from the lungs. Okay, let's draw the structure and we'll understand. Okay, I'm going to draw a small heart over here and then we'll do the systemic separately and then we'll do everything here. Okay, yes. So this is right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricles. Okay, yes. First, we'll talk about systemic circulation. Okay, so now the question is, I told you to the tissues. So to the tissues, is it going to be oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood? Tissues need oxygenated blood or deoxygenated blood? Of course, tissues need oxygenated blood. So where is the oxygenated blood present? It is present in the left ventricle. Who is going to carry this oxygenated blood? We know it's going to be aorta. So aorta is going to carry oxygenated blood from the left ventricle. So from where it is actually going? To the tissues. So to the tissues. So let's see. So who is going to carry oxygenated blood? Is actually going from the left ventricle, right? From the left ventricle, and it is going to the aorta. And from the aorta, it is actually going to the tissues. What blood is going to the tissues? Oxygenated blood again. Okay. Now, the tissue will utilize all the oxygen for its own metabolism, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, etc. And it will produce a lot of ATP. After utilizing this tissue is going to release what? Deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood. Let me write it over here. Deoxygenated blood. But who is going to carry this deoxygenated blood to the heart? Deoxygenated blood to the heart? All the systemic veins, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, coronary sinus. So I'm going to mark it over here. So from the tissue, deoxygenated blood are going to be taken by the veins. So blood is actually coming over here by veins. Vena cava. You can say veins. I'm just writing systemic veins brings all this thing. So this is going to be the systemic vein. So where it is actually starting? From the left ventricle, it goes through the aorta and then to the tissue and then coming back. So I can make systemic veins is actually happening like this way. So you can just remember like this way. From the left ventricle to the right atrium. So just remember to the tissues and from the tissues. So from the tissues it is actually going and then to the tissues. So you have to remember this part is going to be systemic circulation. Understood all of you? So left ventricles, aorta, tissues, and deoxygenated blood back again to veins and then to the right atrium. Just answer me if you understand. Everybody? Understood? Any doubts so far? Any doubt? If no doubt, just reply me with no or else with a yes. Okay, fine. Listen carefully. I'm talking about pulmonary circulation. Very simple. I told you pulmonary circulation, what you have to remember? To and from lungs. This is important. So I told you previously, I marked something like this. So here we are going to do something different over here. Okay. So where is the deoxygenated blood present? Anybody? Is it in the right atrium or left atrium or we can say right ventricles or left atrium and left ventricle? Where is it remains? So deoxygenated blood is actually present here. Correct? Yes, it is actually present here. Deoxygenated blood is present here. Who is going to carry this deoxygenated blood? Who is going to carry it to the lungs? Anybody? deoxygenated blood is carried by? Anybody? Come on, answer me. Pulmonary arteries or veins? Pulmonary arteries. So this is going to be pulmonary artery. And it is going to go to the lungs. And now what the lungs will do? The lungs will do convert everything into oxygenated blood. And who is going to bring this oxygenated blood? Pulmonary veins. There are 4 pulmonary veins which is going to bring. So if I have to make an arrow for this one, I'll make something like this way. So just remember like this. In systemic circulation, I have drawn from left ventricle to right atrium. Here I am drawing pulmonary circulation is from right ventricle to left atrium. How can I write? Right ventricle is going to carry or having deoxygenated blood. And from here, who is going to carry? Pulmonary arteries. And pulmonary arteries carries this deoxygenated blood and it gives to whom? Yes, it gives it to the lungs. And lungs purify everything, oxygenated blood, and gives it to pulmonary veins. And pulmonary veins gives it to whom? Left atrium. So it is from right ventricle to left atrium is going to be what? Pulmonary circulation. All of you have understood? Easy, right? Okay, fine. So we talked about systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. There are 2 circulations, systemic circulation, and we say it's going to be pulmonary circulation. So that's why it's called as double circulation. And it's called as complete double circulation because there is no mixing of deoxygenated blood and oxygenated blood. Okay. This is another important question for examination, hepatic portal system. Hepato or hepatic means, anybody? Hepato means what? Liver. Liver cells are called as hepatocytes. And we are going to talk about what is this portal system. Very easy. Just understand it clearly. Listen. Okay. Suppose if I have to talk about a connection that happens between digestive tract, or I can say intestines, and liver. So there is a connection between liver. So let's make something easy. There's going to be heart over here. And I'm going to make liver here. And I'm going to make intestine over here. Okay. The liver role, what's the role of a liver? Anybody, can you answer me? What's the role of a liver? What's the role of liver? Liver is for detoxification. It removes all the toxins from your body. Liver, right? Yes. So what exactly happens is in intestine, we are utilizing all the food is getting digested, and the deoxygenated blood first goes through the liver, not to the heart directly. Deoxygenated blood, which means whatever we utilize for our own metabolism, and it's going as deoxygenated blood, it goes to the liver, not directly to the heart. And there are set of capillaries which are actually present here. And this portal system which connects the liver and the intestine is called as what? Hepatic portal system. Hepatic portal system. So remember, hepatic portal system usually carries deoxygenated blood from the intestine to the liver, and then liver transfers it to the heart. Deoxygenated blood through the pulmonary, or we can say through the veins, it carries to the heart, and the heart purifies and then give it for the intestine tissues for its own purposes or its metabolism. So remember, hepatic portal system is which connects a digestive system, which is intestine and the liver, and they used to carry deoxygenated blood from the intestine to the liver and then to the heart. All of you understood? Just answer me with S if you can understand. Okay. Let's answer this question. Yes. Hepatic portal system. Oxygenated blood from liver to intestine, deoxygenated blood from liver to intestine, and then oxygenated blood from intestine to liver, and deoxygenated blood from intestine to liver. Anybody, can you answer? Easy question. Hepatic portal system is connection between intestine and liver. What is the answer? Yes, it's going to be option D. Yes, the answer is going to be deoxygenated blood from the intestine to the liver. Okay. Now we are moving on to very important topic, which is going to be conducting system of the heart. Let's understand what's going to be this conducting system. First, we have to understand heart. Heart is going to be myogenic. Myogenic. What is myogenic means? Myo means muscle. So myogenic means cardiac muscle here. So here, the heart itself, because the heart is going to have specialized cardiac muscle, which we call it nodal tissues. Nodal tissues. And these nodal tissues can generate impulse. Not conducting, there's a difference. Generate is the one which actually produces. They can generate impulses without any stimulus. Without stimulus. Without somebody telling you to study. If you study, it's very good. The same way, without any stimulus, what exactly happening? They can do its own function. They can stimulate signals actually. So heart can do its own function. That's why heart is called as myogenic. So myo means muscle. So cardiac muscles, there's a specialized cardiac muscle called nodal tissue. They can themselves generate impulses without any external stimulus. This is very important. And heart are going to be auto-excitable. Auto-excitable, very important. Auto is self, I told you. So they can produce SA node. We'll be talking about SA node. SA node used to generate greater signal or action potential of 70 to 75 times for 1 minute. So auto-excite, they can excite themselves and they can produce what? Impulses. So you should remember, heart is going to be myogenic in nature. So now we are going to talk about all the things which are present. First, nodal tissues. There are 4 types of nodal tissues are present, which is going to be SA node. And the second one is going to be AV node. And the third one is going to be bundle of His. You can say bundle of His or HIS also you can say, or you can say AV bundle also. AV bundle. And the next one is going to be Purkinje fibers. Purkinje fibers, yes. Good, Sophia, yes. So Purkinje fibers, 4 nodal tissues are actually present. The question for your NEET is, what is this SA node? Sinoatrial node. Now I want an answer from any of you. Where is this SA node present? In the previous image, we saw SA node. What is the location of the SA node? It is present in the same NCERT line, upper right corner of the right atrium. Important one. This will be asked in your question paper. Please make it a star point, important line. Where it is actually present, suppose if I have to draw a heart. So here, this area, upper right corner, this SA node is actually present. This is important. The location is very important for your examination. Please make sure to mark it a star point. Okay, yes. What about AV node? AV node is otherwise called as atrioventricular node. Atrioventricular node. This is actually present in the, this is right, this is lower left corner. So below this one, left corner, in this area, between this atrium, this is going to be what? Let's suppose take this way. Yeah, you can just see it over here, right? This is AV node. So the location is important. The lower left corner of right atrium. This is important. Okay, the locations are important. Okay, then, so what exactly happens is the SA node without any external stimulus, how the heart actually pumps. Somebody has to give some stimulus, then only they'll pump, but heart doesn't work like that. SA node is going to do, they can generate impulse by themselves. So SA node used to generate impulse and sends the impulses to the complete atria. And the atria begins to contract, and then they send the impulses to the AV node. And then they usually send it to the another portion. So suppose if we have to talk about this one, let me just show you this one. Okay, from here, this is the AV node, we already know. And from here, it actually goes through a bundle of His. This is called AV bundle. This is not septum actually, I'm just drawing AV bundle. And from this AV bundle, suppose if I have to draw this one, let me draw it here. It's not visible over there. So this is SA node, and from SA node, it goes to AV node. And from AV node, it goes to, this is going to be AV bundle. This is AV bundle. And it just goes to right AV bundle and left AV bundle. And then it goes to small Purkinje fibers. Small Purkinje fibers will be present. And then the entire ventricle begins to contract. Okay, let's do everything together now. All of you? Yes, let's write. Suppose if I have to draw the complete heart for now, all of you just remember, where is the SA node present? It is present on the upper right corner of the right atrium. So this is going to be SA node. And the SA node is going to have the maximum potential of generating action potential. 70 to 75, important question, important, 70 to 75 for 1 minute. They can produce impulses by themselves without any external stimulus, like some nervous tissue should not be under control that moment. Okay, this is going to be SA node, and they are auto-excitable. Auto-excitable. And SA node is called as pacemaker. Important question, all of you. SA node is called as pacemaker. If anybody whose SA node is not functioning, they do not generate any impulses. Then if that is not generating impulses, they cannot send it to the entire heart for contraction. That's why artificial pacemakers are kept in people whose SA node is not functioning at all. So SA node is called as pacemaker. And the next, AV node. AV node is present onto the lower left part of the right atrium. This is AV node. And AV node is called as pace setter. This is important. But now the question is, ma'am, the heart can actually send the impulses directly, right? Why they need to have something in between here? Because I told you this area, right? This area is going to be AV wall, right AV wall and left AV wall, or septum, we can say. They are made up of connective tissue, thick connective tissue, I told you. If a connective tissue which is made up of collagen and elastin present, they cannot go through that area. That's why they are sending impulses to the complete atria, and they are sending impulses to AV. And then from AV, there arises, we can call AV node as AVN. And from here, there is going to be AV bundle. This is going to be AV bundle. This AV bundle branches into right AV bundle and left AV bundle. This is called right AV bundle. And this is going to be left AV bundle. And from this bundle, there are minute branchings like this, which we call it Purkinje fibers. So this is going to be Purkinje fibers. G fibers. And this is how the heart is going to send impulses. First, they send the impulses, the generation, not the SA node is actually generating impulses by themselves, approximately 70 to 75 for 1 minute. And they are going to be pacemakers. And they send the impulses to the AV node. The AV node is very important because there's a fibrous tissue present. And then the auricles begin to contract. And then from the AV node, it sends the impulses to the bundle of His. And then to the right bundle of His, left bundle of His, and then to the Purkinje fibers. As the impulses are conducted to the entire part of the ventricles, now the ventricles begins to contract. This is how the conduction actually takes place. If we have to make a tabulation, we can make something like this. First, it goes to SA node, which is the pacemaker, and then they generate impulses. If the question is asked, who is going to generate impulses at the rate of, it used to send impulses at the rate of 1 meter per second. For 1 second, it used to go 1 meter distances. And then they send it to AV node. And AV node is responsible for conduction. Conduction means the one who takes and give it to others. So if the question comes conduction, mark the answer as AV. If the question comes generation, mark the answer as SA node. Then it goes to bundle of His, or we can say AV bundle also. AV bundle. Sometimes the question will come like this also. Please make sure that you are knowing this. And then right bundle of His and left bundle of His, left bundle of His, and then finally to Purkinje fibers. Okay, that's all is the conduction of heart. Okay, yes. Okay, next. Yes, hello. Okay, the next one, we are just moving on to the entire part. We know the entire heart is made up of cardiac muscle. Important NCERT line, I want all of you to mark it in your book. Yes. The next one, the walls of, another important line. I told you this is very important. Please make it a star point. The walls of ventricles are more thicker than auricles. Very specifically left ventricles. And specialized cardiac muscle, I told you it's going to be nodal tissue. Nodal tissue, 4 types I told you. The first one, very important point you have to remember is, it is present on the right upper corner of the right atrium. Important NCERT line, they will be asking you the location. This is SA node. And another mass is actually present on the lower left of the right atrium, very close to AV septa. They can ask you this question, where exactly it is present. This is the AV septa. They can ask at this region it is actually present. Okay, yes. And then from there is going to be AV bundle, and then there is going to be right AV bundle and left AV bundle. So they have talked about right AV bundle and left AV bundle. And then they go to minute fibers. These branches give rise to minute fibers, and these fibers are called as Purkinje fibers. I told you, right? Yes. And very important line. The next important line, make it a star point. All these nodal tissues has the ability to generate action potential signals, impulses. They have the capacity to generate. Who is actually doing this? SA node actually. SA node is generating impulses, and all of them are responsible for conduction without any external stimulus. This is very important. So they are auto-excitable. I told you, right? This is an important line in your examination. Yes. Okay. So this is another important line in your NCERT book. I told you 70 to 75. How much SA node can generate impulses at the rate of 1 meter per second? How much is the action potential going to be? 70 to 75. What's the purpose of SA node? It is the one which actually initiates the contraction. It starts the contraction, maintains the contraction. If SA node is not generating impulses, it will not go to AB. It will not go to bundle of His. It will not go to Purkinje. So there is no contraction at all. If there is no contraction, no pumping of blood will take place in the heart. So you should remember SA is the one which actually initiates and maintains the rhythmic activity or the contraction of the heart. That's why we used to call as what? SA node as the pacemakers, which actually generates impulses. Next important question. Our heart beats 72 times, or we can say average is going to be 72 beats for 1 minute, approximately 70 to 75, but it ranges. Suppose, another important question, please make it a point. Can anybody tell me what is bradycardia? Bradycardia. Bradycardia and tachycardia. This can come in your examination. Tachycardia. What is bradycardia? Anybody? Bradycardia? Anybody? Bradycardia means, which means they have very less than the 72 heartbeat. These people will have 60 heartbeat for 1 minute. Abnormal heartbeat. If they have very less amount of heartbeat, this is also very dangerous. So that condition is called as bradycardia. Tachycardia. Tachycardia means people used to get more than 100 heartbeats. More than 100 heartbeats for 1 minute. Then this is also abnormal condition. So make sure what is bradycardia and what is tachycardia. Okay. Let's do the questions. Pacemaker of heart is AV node, bundle of His, SA node, Purkinje fibers. What's the answer? Anybody? Yes, it's going to be SA node. Why? Because they can generate impulses at a rate of 70 to 75 for 1 minute. Very good, Sophia. This is the answer. Okay, yes, let's move to the next question. Okay, bundle of His is a part of which of the following organs in human? Brain, heart, kidney, pancreas. Very simple question. Yes, very good, Sneha. Anybody? Of course, it is in the heart. Just now we have seen, right? So the answer is going to be this one. Okay. Next, we are moving on to the most important topic of this chapter, which is going to be cardiac cycle. So let's finish off this one. Very good, Sophia. Cardiac cycle. First thing, you have to remember how many cardiac cycle will take place. So there are going to be 72 cardiac cycle. In your NCERT, if you remember, there would be a line which says that much cardiac cycle will take place. 72 beat for 1 minute, I told you, which means 72 times the cardiac cycle will take place. For one cardiac cycle, how much seconds it will take place? So one cardiac cycle will almost last for about less than 1 second, which is 0.8 seconds. This is really, really important. So remember how many cardiac cycles? 72 cardiac cycle, 72 beats. So we are going to talk about what is this cardiac cycle about. Very important. So just remember, I'm going to talk about three important things. Auricular systole, ventricular systole, both diastole. So let's divide into two equal halves or three. Yes. So first one is auricular systole. First important thing, what is the systole means? So systole is something which refers to contraction. Contraction. And diastole means relaxation. Diastole means relaxation. So systole means contraction, diastole means relaxations. So we're going to talk about auricular systole, which means auricles are going to contract. The next one is going to be ventricular systole. Right ventricle and the left ventricles are going to contract, and both are going to be relaxing for some period of time, which we call it joint diastole, or you can call it auricular ventricular relaxation. How much is the second? The most important question for your NEET examination. This is going to be 0.1 second, and this is going to be 0.3 seconds, and this is going to be 0.4 seconds. Important question. So they can ask you auricular systole. Auricles are going to contract for how much time? 0.1 second. And ventricles are going to contract for 0.3 seconds, and joint diastole is for 0.4 seconds. Okay. Okay, so first let's talk about auricular systole. Auricular systole. Let's take auricles. Right auricle, left auricle, right ventricle, left ventricles. So we know the auricles are going to contract. When will the auricles contract? That's the question. First, there's the SA node here. So suppose if I have to talk about, there's the SA node. So now the SA node is going to generate impulses without any external stimulus. So they generate, not conducts first, it generates impulse. It has generated impulses. And now they will send all the impulses or signals to the complete heart, to the entire left atrium, everywhere. The entire auricles is going to get the signal to pump the entire auricles. We know that the right auricle is going to have what kind of blood? Just a minute. Yeah, it's going to have deoxygenated blood, and it is coming from the veins. I'm not specifically writing superior, inferior, no. I'm just writing it is vein, systemic vein. And the oxygenated blood from the lungs with the help of what is this? Pulmonary veins. This is pulmonary veins. Just remember both are going to be veins, but here it is oxygenated blood. And now the right atrium, in that they have SA node. SA node generate impulses and they send it to the entire atria. And the entire atria get the impulses and they begin to pump. Okay, they begin to pump. As they contract, or we can say auricles are going to contract at this stage. As the auricles are contract, the blood will come from right atrium to right ventricle and left atrium to left ventricle. But they cannot come because there is going to be a valve which is actually present. This valve is called as what? Right AV valve. To be very specific, I'm writing tricuspid wall. Tricuspid wall. And this is going to be bicuspid wall. So they cannot come. Now they have to open, right? Yes, now they have to open. So what are the wall that actually opens? Tricuspid wall, which is going to be the right AV wall, and bicuspid wall, which is going to be the left AV wall, actually opens. Okay, some wall has to close. So this wall, superior vena cava do not have wall, superior vena cava, and pulmonary veins do not have walls. So they just close automatically because they are towards the direction of gravity. Here they just close automatically. But the inferior vena cava and the coronary sinus has walls, wall of Tiberius and wall of Eustachian. They also closes. So inferior vena cava and so we can say coronary sinus walls actually closes. Because in order to prevent the backflow, the blood should not go back again to the superior vena cava. This is actually takes place in auricular systole, and this lasts for 0.1 second. Okay, during this time, auricles are contracting. What this ventricles are actually doing? They're relaxing. So 0.1 second, auricles are actually contracting, and remaining rest of the seconds, these ventricles are actually relaxing for that moment. Okay, the next one is going to be ventricles. Ventricular contraction. Ventricular contraction. What exactly happens in ventricular contraction, or we can say ventricular systole. Ventricular systole. So what's going to happen? Suppose if I have to draw this one, same way. So SA node has generated impulses and they have made the auricles to contract. Now where is the blood? The blood is actually deoxygenated blood is here, oxygenated blood is here. Now SA node will send signals to AV node and then to bundle of His. And then from bundle of His to all the Purkinje fibers it will send. Now the ventricle begins to contract. This lasts for 0.3 seconds. 0.3 seconds. Now what will happen? Now the ventricles has to contract. Listen carefully. When the ventricles are going to contract, right ventricle also, left ventricle also. When they contract, the volume of the ventricle actually becomes small. So the volume of ventricle decreases when they are contracting. When the volume decreases, the pressure actually increases. So during that time, the pressure which are exerted by the blood actually increases. So the pressure is actually increased. So what will happen? There is going to be pulmonary arteries which goes above and aorta which goes here. So this is pulmonary artery and this is pulmonary veins. And now, since the contraction is taking place, the blood will try to go up. So that time, this semi-lunar walls, or we can say this AV walls, this right AV wall and this left AV wall will close because the blood should not go in this region because it's backflow of blood. So what exactly happened? The right AV wall and the left AV wall, or we can say tricuspid wall and bicuspid wall, closes suddenly because that's where the chordae action will take place. So they will pull them down and they prevent the blood to go back again. They should go only to pulmonary arteries and aorta. And this creates a sound called lub sound. So the question will come like lub sound is because of the closure of tricuspid and bicuspid wall, or they can ask you right AV wall and left AV wall. This used to be for long duration, but it does not give that much sound. So we can say the sound is less or the sharpness of the sound is less. Okay, so this is during ventricular contraction, 0.3 seconds. The next one, joint diastole. During joint diastole, what will happen? This stage, there is a stage when both the auricles and ventricles will actually relax. So what exactly happens at this stage? So it is going to be for 0.4 seconds. Now the ventricle try to relax themselves. So ventricle relaxes and even auricle also relaxes. So when they relaxes, the volume of the ventricle, they just stretch like this. So volume increases, pressure decreases. Pressure decreases. So where is the blood now? The blood is going to the pulmonary arteries and to aorta. Now, this semi-lunar wall should close because the blood is now here. The blood is actually here. This is oxygenated blood, aorta. And this is pulmonary artery, which is deoxygenated blood here. There is a chance now as the pressure is actually less here. Here it is more. Here the pressure is more. Here the pressure is less. Now what will happen? The blood will try to come here. So semi-lunar walls closes immediately because they should not come back again. Wall actually closes. So when they closes, they create a sound called dub. And this sound is going to be very louder, very loud. It's going to be very loud and it's for short duration. So you will have a questions based on 0.1 second is for auricular contraction and 0.3 seconds for ventricular contraction and joint diastole is for 0.4 seconds. So it's going to be totally 0.8 second, less than 1 second we can say. And lub sound is mainly because of the closure of right AV wall and left AV wall. And dub sound is because of the closure of semi-lunar walls. Yes, you can answer this question. Anybody? Just answer this question and then we will just end the session. Anybody? Just answer this question. Yes, the heart is actually Anath, right? Yes, the heart is actually present in the center, in the thoracic cavity, but it's slightly tilted towards the left in the cardiac notch of the left lung. In the center, but tilted towards the left. Okay, what's the answer for this question? Anybody? Lub sound is because of closure of AV walls at the beginning. Is it lub sound? I told you it's because of right AV wall and left AV wall. You have to correct the one. Yes, the answer is first one. Let's check the second one. Dub sound. Sudden opening is given. It is not because of opening. It's because of closure of semi-lunar wall. So this is a wrong statement. And pulsation of radial artery walls in the blood vessels. No, it is actually not in the radial artery. So this is also wrong. Purkinje fibers never initiates heartbeat. SA node only initiates heartbeat. So this is also wrong one. Okay. This question I gave it for a homework. So we already know important. Each ventricle pumps approximately 70 ml. Stroke volume. How much is the volume of blood pumped by each ventricle? Not one ventricle, each ventricle. Each of these ventricles. It is 70 ml. Heartbeat we know it's going to be 72 heartbeat for 1 minute. So how to calculate the cardiac output? Stroke volume 70 ml into 72 for one ventricle we are calculating. If the question comes for two ventricle, then you have to calculate. So this is the most important line. Cardiac output can be defined as the amount of volume pumped by each ventricle. This is important. Not two ventricle, each ventricle for 1 minute. So it is going to be 5040 ml. So 70 into 72 is equal to, so approximately we can say 5000 or 5 liters. Just answer this question. In a cardiac output of 525 ml, so cardiac output is given. Output is 5250 ml and heartbeat is going to be 75. Heartbeat is given as 75. Find out the stroke volume. How to find out stroke volume? How to find out the stroke volume? Anybody just answer me? Yes, very good, Sophia. 70 ml. How to do it? Very easy. So we know cardiac output is equal to stroke volume into heartbeat. So you have to find out what? You have to find out stroke volume. So cardiac output divided by heartbeat. So cardiac output is 5250 by 75. So the answer is going to be 70 ml. Easy. Okay. So, okay, now I'm going to finish off with ECG and then we will end the session. This is the most important thing. So let's talk about ECG. So this was discovered by Einthoven. Okay. First important thing, what is electrocardiogram and electrocardiograph? Electrocardiograph. Please remember, graph is not referring to graph. Electrocardiograph is going to be the machine. Electrocardiogram is going to be the graphical representation. Electrocardiogram is going to be the graphical representation of how is the heart's electrical activity is actually taking place. So first we are going to talk about three important terminologies. Very important. Just understand this and then we'll end the session. Okay. Yes. Okay. First, P wave. Let's talk about P wave. In our book, they have given depolarization of atria. Depolarization of atria. And R is going to be, or QRS is going to be depolarization of ventricles. This is important for your examination, so I'm writing that. And the T is going to be repolarization. Repolarization of ventricles. Okay, let's first understand what is polarization, depolarization, repolarization. Very easy. So first thing, this is going to be the cardiac muscles or the membranes, you can say. It usually has positive charge on the outer surface and negative charge on the inner surface. So this is based on the sodium potassium concentration. This one is called as polarized membrane, which positive charge is present outside and the negative charge is present inside. As soon as the sodium moves inside, what exactly happens is depolarized. When will this happen? When they are going to get a stimulus. If somebody going to come and stimulate them, then what exactly happen? The sodium will go inside, so the negative charge comes in. So there is a shifting of charges here. So negative comes out and positive only in a specific region. And this is called depolarization. Next one, repolarization. Repolarize, re means again. So it comes back to its original position, positive, positive, positive again, negative, negative inside. This is repolarization. Please remember in your NCERT book, there's a very important line. Depolarization doesn't mean that the auricle is contracting. Depolarization means they have got a stimulus and after getting a stimulus, then only they'll contract. So let's talk about what is this P and what is this Q. So first remember, P wave is called as depolarization, which means they have got a stimulus. They are not going to contract. Okay, they have got a stimulus. So followed by, then they will contract, followed by contraction of atria. Contraction of atria. So when they will contract? During P and Q wave. During this PQ interval, this area, they will contract. So which means during PQ, they are going to contract. And this is contraction of auricle. And what is the contraction of auricle? Seconds, we already know it's 0.1 seconds. Okay, yes. And then Q wave, what will happen? So P wave, SA node is going to generate impulses, and this is depolarization. And P to Q, what exactly is happening? Contraction of auricles for 0.1 second. And then Q wave. In Q wave, we already know what exactly happened. SA node sends signal to AV, and RS, and we can say ST, RS and ST ventricles will contract. So do not remember like this way. R is going to be depolarized, means at R the ventricles are going to contract. So Q is going to get impulses, which is, and then RS and then ST are going to be the contraction. So we'll write RS, ST, contraction of ventricle. That's why in our book they have written till it reaches T. This is going to be ventricular contraction. And T is going to be repolarization, which means all the auricle will come back to its original positions. So first remember, P is depolarization. So that is not contraction of auricle. P to Q, we can say it is going to be auricular contraction for 0.1 seconds. And Q, R, S and S, if we have to talk about Q, Q is the region where they're going to receive impulses from SA, and RS and ST is ventricular contraction, which is 0.3 seconds. And then T is going to be repolarization. Okay, now let's go to the NCERT lines, which is given, and then we'll understand this. Yes. So you can just answer this question first. Which of the component of ECG in human is correctly interpreted? Just answer this question and then we'll end the session. Anybody? Let's see. Complex QR is one complete pulse. Peak T. Okay, first we'll see what is T. T is depolarization of atria, which means auricles have received impulses, but they are not contracting, but they have returned initiation of cardiac contraction. Okay, it's not that. Okay, so we cannot choose this one. Next one. Peak P and R together, systolic and diastolic. Let's see, P is going to be depolarization of auricles, followed by, after depolarization, they will contract. After this only, they'll contract. And R is for what? R is for depolarization of ventricle. That time they will not contract, they just stimulates. After that only they'll contract. So this is also a wrong statement. P is initiation of left atrial contraction only. No, depolarization of atria is referring to both right atria, left atria. So this is also wrong. So what is the answer? Option A, Y. QRS, one complete pulse. I told you 0.1 second, 0.3 seconds, and finally 0.4 second. This is the complete pulse, or we can say pulse means the generation during 0.3 and 0.1 only we used to call the pulse rate usually. So that is the correct answer. Yes. So we have come to the end of the session. So only this is left. So I'm going to deal only this question and then we'll finish off. Coronary artery disease is often referred to as, what is it? Anybody? Coronary artery disease is referred to as? Okay, what is coronary artery disease? When the blood vessels, or we can say arteries, usually arteries have very narrow lumen. But what will happen, even that narrow lumen itself, what will happen? The fat will deposit, the calcium will deposit. So ultimately they cannot respire, or we can say the flow of the blood will not be uniform, right? Yes. So what is that condition called as? Easy question. Yes, very good. The answer is atherosclerosis. Yes. Okay. What is angina? Angina means pain. Okay. So angina pectoris, very important. Hypoxia. Hypoxia means less oxygen. Less oxygen. So when a person is going to have very less amount or no oxygen at all, no oxygen. Here it is not hypoxia, it is no oxygen at all to the heart muscle. Then that is called as what? Angina pectoris. Okay. Yes. Heart failure. Important, very important. All of you make it a star point. Heart failure, cardiac arrest, and then very important, heart attack. Three important differences. First important difference, failure. If a heart is not pumping at all, when a heart is not pumping, that condition is called as heart failure. Many people used to have this heart failure just because of congestion of lungs, because they used to have some viral infection in the lungs, which ultimately causes this heart failure when the heart will not pump at all, Cardiac arrest is something when the heart stops beating, they will not beat at all. That is cardiac arrest. Heart attack is different. Heart attack is when the muscles which are present in the heart is actually damaged because there is no blood supply. That is called heart attack. Heart attack is otherwise called as myocardial infections. Infractions. So remember, heart failure when the heart is not pumping at all. Cardiac arrest means when the heart stops pumping, and heart attack or myocardial infarctions means when the heart muscles get damaged because there is no blood vessels at all. This is a major important differences that you have to remember. Another important difference is blood pressure. Whenever we talk of blood pressure, you should remember it is always related to the arterial blood pressure. What is this arterial blood pressure? We know the arteries are going to carry oxygenated blood. So any blood is going to have, if they move, a lot of blood molecules are actually moving. They used to have a lot of kinetic energy and they used to push on each other. So what exactly happened? The pressure will actually increases. So the pressure exerted by the oxygenated blood on the walls of the arteries, that is called as what? Blood pressure, very specifically. So they can ask you, blood pressure is calculated based on the blood in the veins or arteries. It is always in the arteries. And this 120 is referring to the contraction of ventricle, the blood pressure which is exerted by the blood, or we can say the pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of the arteries during ventricular systole. This is ventricular systole. Ventricular systole. That time, what is the blood pressure in the artery? And 80 is referring to during diastole, ventricular diastole, when both of them are relaxed. That is 80. If it's going to increase, we used to call it as what? Hypertension. So, easy question. Blood pressure is measured by sphygmomanometer or stethoscope or electrocardiogram or phonocardiogram. Anybody just answer and then we'll finish. What's the answer? Yes, it's option A. Right? Yes. Okay, finally, we'll go to the last question and then we'll finish. I told you myocardial infarction is otherwise called as heart attack. It is not cardiac arrest, it is heart attack. Cardiac arrest when the heart stops pumping. Heart attack means what? When the muscles are damaged. So hardening of arteries, no, that is coronary artery disease. Lumpy thickness, no. Clot, no. Sudden interruption in the blood flow towards the portion of the heart. I told you the heart muscles will not function at all because there is no proper blood supply. So this is heart attack. So answer is going to be option D. Yes. So thickening of arteries due to cholesterol or oil. The lumens get narrower, arteries get narrower. What is this condition called as? Atherosclerosis, rheumatic heart, or blood pressure, or cardiac arrest? What's the answer? Atherosclerosis or coronary artery disease. So answer is option A. Yes. So we have come to the end. These questions we have already done. So we have come to the end of this session. Thank you all of you for joining, and you will be having the next series later. So today we have done with the part 2 on body fluids and circulations. So if you have any questions, you can just comment in the box which is given below. So you can just come over there, and we'll be meeting again with a new topic again. So thank you all of you for joining. Thank you so much for the time, and all the very best to all of you. Thank you all of you for joining. Thank you.